Yes.
Alright, well this is my first lesson ever teaching, so y'all bear with me. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Pretty much we're going to talk about like the miners and ranchers and like the Western civilization a little bit, and then also like how they had the frontiers move out. So just listen to me and look at the PowerPoints. So pretty much like in the beginning of this chapter, it talks about the miners and ranchers settling in large areas of the West. This can include, this can include Nevada, California, Texas. For a little bit, is that good or like that?
Yes.
Is that perfect? So in this picture exactly right here, this is in Nevada. So I got that all people. But placer mining, which is in y'all's sheet, is the process of extracting shallow deposits of ore largely by hand. So this is kind of just like this simple, like mining that's done with tools like shovels and pans. This isn't really like going in and like creating like the whole mines. This was just more like a symbolized like version that they started off in the beginning. So I have a picture, I'm not sure, but yeah. Just kind of something like that, like not really like in the caves or anything like that, just kind of like having these, they have their like shovels and stuff right here, but they kind of have where they go through and they kind of cleanse it out, and that way they get the actual hard material. So that's kind of what it looked like, and this was in Nevada as well. And then moving on from that, a different style of mining, a more advanced style was the quartz mining. And it was mining that dug deep beneath the surface. So it was different, of course, from the surface mining I just talked about. It was done so by the corporations. So like at the time when mining became such a huge like economic boom in some of these cities, they moved on to this quartz mining because it worked more efficiently and they were able to find more ore and more silver. So that was just different. And then it wasn't just silver; they had gold, copper. I mean, it was all throughout the West. It was just whatever they could find at a certain time. And then this is also on the sheet, the vigilance committees. So during these booms, and like I failed to mention it, I meant to, but this is like 1850s, 1880s. During these booms, the crime posed a serious problem. I'm sure y'all seen like on murals, maybe in downtown and stuff like that, where you'd see people like fighting and they'd have their cowboy hats on, or they'd be dressed up in 1850s gear and they'd be fighting after each other. But these prospectors, they would fight over the claims, and the thieves that would like haunt the streets and the trails. So we've all seen like in movies like ghost towns, right, where it's got the tumbleweed and it's moving over and everybody, there's not really much going on. Well, these vigilance committees would come in, and they were pretty much like law enforcers, kind of like the police, what we have today, except they were more self-appointed, and they were strictly volunteers, and they tried to track down and punish the wrongdoers. So like pretty much the wrongdoers could just be guys that were kind of coming into these little villages and just trying to steal gold. They weren't mining at all, they were just trying to get the quick money and get the quick tools and stuff like that. And of course, kind of like how we have today, we have good and we have bad committees, just kind of like how we have good police officers and we have bad officers. It's kind of like, you could relate it to that sense. So the open range would be the vast areas of grassland owned by the federal government. So like the Great Plains is a large area of what I'm talking about in the West. They were covered, this covers the Great Plains provided land where ranchers could graze their herds free of charge and unrestricted by the boundaries of private farms. So at this time, like you got to realize in the Western world, there just wasn't fences. There wasn't really like land. I mean, the land was kind of open for everyone. You pretty much just claimed it when you came in, and people just had to respect that. So there was not much paperwork done. The federal government was, in a sense, it was strict, but it just wasn't like it is today, if that makes sense. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the open range a little bit later. But so the trails that would lead to these western cities or the western states, they would herd their cattle, like in the picture, like you'd have the man on the horse and then a couple men just like up in the middle, and they'd be just pretty much like making the cow like herd. Like it was a very, very difficult process, but they were able to do it. I've never even ridden a horse, so I don't know how I would even be able to manage all those cattle. But the Chisholm Trail was one of like the more popular trails, and it was a major route to North Abilene, Kansas. It was between 1867 and 1871, and cowboys during this time drove nearly 1.5 million head of cattle. Like I said about these trails and about the cities, like they're very open, and you just kind of had to manage your own. Like I said, they didn't have fences, and these were also very rowdy because at some points people would try to disrupt the cattle and try to like get in the way, and maybe even like kill the cowboys and try to take their crops and take their cattle. So it's just it was a difficult process for sure. And then I think I finished all the ABCs. I'm not sure. Okay, good. So kind of like going a little bit more of like the material, I guess you could say, of the chapter. The story of Western mining is bigger than the individual stories heard throughout history. So just kind of like, I'm sure y'all maybe heard about like cowboys and their stories that they've had, or just like, did y'all ever play that game, the Oregon Trail on the computer? It's old, but like, it's kind of like that same process, except it was more bigger than that economically. As you can see, here's a civilization that was built solely because of mining. I'm not sure. I don't think it was in Nevada. I think this one's actually in New Mexico. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But anyways, the West, rich deposit of gold, silver, and copper, served the needs for the East. So, like I said, economically, the East was really wanting people to go out to the West and get these like great metals that was so kind of what would be the word? I guess like rare that you could find in the East. Like it was just something that was served through the newspapers, and it's just kind of like this big uproar on these new materials. And it served the needs, like I said, for the East, and mining also brought the first wave of settlers to the West. So that's a little bit of history on that. Like say this town would just be up solely because of mining, solely because of getting these metals. I mean, it could be maybe 20 years later and there was nothing left. So they were very just like kind of like come and go, and it was very rare that many cities made it through after the mining was all dug up. And in the year 1866, ranchers rounded up cattle and drove about 260,000 of them to Sedalia, Missouri. Although only a fraction of the herd survived the long drive, the drive overall was a tremendous success. Providing the cattle could be driven north to the trail lines and sold for 10 times the price in Texas. This led to the creation of other trails like the Chisholm. And you might be able to help me out. During the year 1866, was Texas, were they annexed yet, or were they part of the U.S.?
Yeah, they should have been part of the Union.
Okay.
Well,
I'm not very good on this area, but I was trying to connect those dots on that because like in the book it says times the price in Texas, so I didn't know if like. But anyways, I'm guessing what they're saying, like I said about these long drives and like herding these cattle. Even though it was tougher than any other job that was going on, it was overall a success, and people continued to talk about the Western world and what it had to offer. So it continued to be a boom, and the rail lines, the railroads were a big hit. They don't really talk about that much in the book, but the creation of railroads really helped out these cowboys that were coming in along with their families. And then this is a picture of that Civil War that I was talking about, just so y'all can kind of get the idea of, I put a picture with a word. And then in the year 1859, when prospector Henry Comstock staked a claim in 6 Mile Canyon, that's the actual city, I forgot to say that. This is in Nevada, this sticky blue-gray mud. There turned out to be a silver ore while they were mining. Overnight, the town turned into a boom town. After, after all the ore was exhausted, the mines closed and the towns collapsed. So like I said, it is very rare for these towns to even stay abrupt for even 10 years. But yeah, the boom town is pretty much just like a word that gives to the fact that, say, you know, we're just out in the woods and out in Troy, and next thing you know, if someone finds gold, well, they're not just going to have one or two people trying to stake kind of that. People are going to start searching all the areas in the woods of Troy, and like literal, like people are going to start setting up communities, setting up their equipment, and having workers in there. And since that's what Boomtown would be.
What are they doing on them?
Huh?
What are they doing on them?
Just continue to listen. I'll come pick them up. Everyone good? So these deep deposits of lead that contain large amounts of silver led to the creation of one of the most legendary boom towns that was dotted the mining frontier of Virginia City, Nevada. And I believe that was one of the questions. Like I said, this kind of, whenever they were going into mining and they found this like silvery liquid material, they didn't know exactly like what it was at the time, but then they it came out to be a hard metal, and then like I said, overnight, like this Virginia City in Nevada just boomed, and the town and the people. Sorry about that. So this is on the assignment as well. The open range was largely fenced off with a new invention called barbed wire. I know that sounds old to us now, but barbed wire was such an important material that was used for the open range. Like I said, before the barbed wire was invented, you know, it was just this huge grassland full of cowboys and their cattle, and they couldn't really control it. And they, you know, at some point lost some cattle, but this way they were able to actually like claim their land, and it enabled hundreds of square miles to be fenced off cheaply and easily. So all they would get was they get their wooden stakes, and they get their barbed wire, and they just wrap it around, stake after stake. And it was used also to shut off the competing forces with them, and this ultimately changed the cattle industry forever. As you can, I'm sure, I don't know if any of y'all have been out west or even in the backwoods of Troy, barbed wire is still used to this day, and it's used effectively. But this is just kind of like a general overview of like, I know it's hard to read because the pictures are a little blurry, but like say you have all the original colonies right here, including, you know, Alabama, Florida, but they would just move out past Texas, going into I mean, a lot of people would go mainly into California, a lot in the Nevada area, and New Mexico, and like I said, in Kansas in the earlier slides. But that's just kind of like the overview of it. These are all the trails that would, I mean, like I said, I know it's hard to see, but all these lines go in through ultimately created that. But hopefully y'all are able to get all y'all's answers done. I tried to make it pretty easy for y'all so y'all can get a good grade. Do y'all have any questions about the question world or anything like that? Cool. Do you have anything to add? You think I pretty much covered everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Go ahead and start picking those up. Appreciate y'all listening to me. That's all I got.
Oh. And now y'all.
I know they had lunch.
Yeah,
Pretty
about
soon, so
5.
I didn't want to go into much detail.
Did y'all, you had the coaching one. Did you add an extra one?
What's that?
Extra paper, did you have an extra?
Yeah.
Extra coaching. But now y'all see why we're ahead. Remember when we started at the beginning of the year? When we started at?
You thought we were 11th graders?
Yeah, so we started, that's why we're ahead. So saying? Most of this should be very familiar. So like be taught or be reinforced. Alright, so y'all have that. Everybody got their $100 and their savings. Done. I'm gonna take my same and I'm gonna take your 100. Typical bank, what y'all think the percentage is for a bank? How much you think? How much you think you get back? I'm saying if you put your money in the bank, you do get a certain amount of interest.
Is it like 3%?
Yeah. Typically, the bank falls in 3%. Actually, if you get 3%, you're probably doing pretty good. Bank is only, like I said, you put $100 in. So basically, what y'all have to do, I need y'all know how to calculate 10%. I need you to calculate 10% of your savings. So so basically what you, whatever you put into the bank at the end of the year, whatever you have, say Jacob got what, 1,300? That's how much you would,
When you multiply it by 0.10?
yeah, so you need 10% of that,
300.
huh? Alright, so write that number down, that's gonna be your 10%, so you'll multiply whatever you got by 0.10. Whatever number you got right there, you're gonna multiply that by 0.10. And that'll give you how much? So just like Jacob, out of his $1,300, so you're gonna have 260